YouTube, how we doing? Today we're going to be continuing our 7-round mock draft series. I took yesterday off, a much needed break, but we're getting right back into it. We're going to be going with the Miami Dolphins. Now in past years, the Miami Dolphins have been some of the best videos I've done for this 7-round mock draft series. You guys absolutely kill it, Dolphins fans. But, this year is a different story. You guys got Tyreek Hill. You have less draft picks. So if you're new to this series, we do trades in this. We make this as realistic as possible. So it definitely does take a little bit more time than I think other mock drafts where people just kind of go and just make the picks and tell you about it. We do a lot more with this. So if you guys would, it would help me out a ton if you leave a like, subscribe if you are new. And without further ado, we're going to get right into this. With our first selection all the way at pick 102, we're going to be selecting Brandon Smith, the linebacker out of Penn State, with a 68 overall grade from Next Gen. He was one of the highest recruits in his class going into college, and he's pretty much an all-around linebacker. I think he excels in coverage. He's got sub 4.4 speed, so he's definitely one of the quicker linebackers in this class. You can see on his frame, though, he doesn't look like he's this small, agile guy. He's a pretty stout, pretty big linebacker, so I think this is a guy who definitely has a chance to be a lot better than what his draft capital is, but he's a pretty good tackler. He can work on shooting the gaps and block shedding. He's definitely more of a guy that you'd put into coverage at that linebacker position, but I think he has all the tools to become a really good linebacker all around. You can play him inside or outside, play him on the edge. He has all the tools, but in reality, he is better in coverage than he is tackling and shooting gaps and shedding blocks, etc. So I think just adding him to the linebacker room, adding some depth is totally the best move here for the Dolphins at 102. Linebacker has been a position that's been up and down throughout the past couple years, so hopefully you're getting a staple here in Brandon Smith who can kind of lock down that interior linebacker position and become a full-time starter as soon as he can. Now we're going to have a trade in this draft, and it's going to be our only trade for the mock draft, and we're going to be giving up pick 125, 224, and 247, and we're going to be selecting at pick 114 and 213. So we're moving up from 125 to 114, and we're moving up from 224 to 213, and we're giving up 247 to make it happen as well. Yeah, I really like this trade for us. This is an easy spot for me to make a trade up for a guy that we're going to talk about in a second, but on top of this, you don't make a move like getting Tyreek Hill if you're not trying to compete right away, and that's what this team is. So those later round picks, those depth guys, aren't going to be as useful as these top tier picks, these higher up picks, which is what we're doing right here. So love this trade for us. Falcons get some more depth for a young team. They're going to need a lot more young players, a lot more darts to throw at the board. We're pretty much set. We're just trying to increase our roster talent and get to that next level. So at pick 114, we're going to be selecting Zamir White, the running back out of Georgia. He had a 76 overall grade from Next Gen. Georgia running backs are running backs that rarely fail. I mean, we've seen it, Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley, DeAndre Swift. There's so many Georgia running backs that come into the NFL and just have an impact right away, whether it is that superstardom or whether it is just a solid running back in the NFL. And Zamir is pretty much an all-purpose back. What I think of him as is I think of him as that he could be that 1A role, but he's best in a duo backfield because, he was doing that in college with James Cook, who really was a pass-catching specialist. But Zamir is really an all-around back, and I think he can do a lot for a team. But because he was splitting those snaps with Cook, who is also a top pick in this draft, at the running back position, he's one of the better ones as well. I think that Zamir is falling because of that, and I don't think that's true because he is such a talented back. I mean, you could see it there. His frame, he's heavy. He's got those really meaty thighs that that everyone drools over with A.J. Dillon and Saquon Barkley and everything. He's got a big frame in a condensed body, and I think that can do a lot in the NFL, and we've seen it with guys like Nick Chubb and DeAndre Swift, guys who should be a lot higher drafted but fall down just due to the talent and the draft capital of running backs. I think Zamir White here at 114 is an absolute steal. I think he's going to be a lead running back from day one. And having those guys like Mostert and Chase Edmonds who really can help out in those pass-catching spots, Zamir starting right away will probably not command as many snaps as those guys, but can definitely be on the field for those short yardage situations where Mostert and Gaskin and Edmonds really aren't those type of guys. But Zamir really can do a lot for this offense. He can command the backfield, and I think he'll do it in Miami. Mostert's not going to be there long term, I think him and Edmonds are going to form a very good 1-2 punch. And I think he can take that James Conner role that Edmonds is used to sharing in Arizona. I think he can take that to Miami and become that James Conner type of runner in the NFL. So Zamir White, love this selection here for the Dolphins. Sorry to interrupt the video, but I just want to talk to you about Underdog Fantasy really quick. The NFL season's over, but you could still draft a new fantasy team on Underdog Fantasy and win cash prizes. They have a slick mobile app and a user-friendly site. You can also join a league and draft a team in minutes. Plus, the folks at Underdog are helping you guys out that are watching the video by matching up to $100 on your first deposit for new users when you use code SORMANI, SORMANI. So just go to underdogfantasy.com or go download the App Store or the Google Play Store. Sign up with the code SORMANI, that's SORMANI, and Underdog is going to match your first deposit all the way up into $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SORMANI, SORMANI. Now let's get back to this video. Now all the way down here at pick 158, we're going to be taking Thayer Munford, the interior offensive lineman out of Ohio State, the Ohio State University, a 74 overall grade from Next Gen. Can pretty much play any position on the line, which is great due to this offensive line, still having some holes in it. But I think he's best at guard, which is another spot that needs to happen. But listen, picking at 158, you're not expecting him to be a starter. You're expecting him to be depth, and that's what this team needs is more depth. Now with the confusion on who's playing where, I think that he can be a starter. I think he can develop into somebody that can be a solid starter. But in reality, you're taking him to be some depth on this offensive line to fill in if there's injuries, to just provide more stability for this offensive line because it's been a mess. Terran Armstead helps out a ton. There's Eichenberg, there's Jackson, there's Hunt, there's Kinley. There's so many different guys. They let Ted Karras walk, and he's gotten a pretty good deal from the teams he's been on. So it's like there's a lot of confusion on this offensive line. What is it going to be? Munford can either come in here and outshine those other guys and be a starter, or he can be a solid backup, and that's exactly what we're looking for here is just more depth at this offensive line to make sure Tua has time to throw it to these insanely good receiving core with Gesicki and Hill and Waddle and Devontae Parker as well, plus those running backs. This is an awesome offense. You need to protect Tua. And then with our last selection, it's not the sexiest pick, but we're going to be taking Matt Araiza out of San Diego State, the punter. Doesn't have a next-gen grade, unfortunately, but this is a guy who, if you've seen any tape on him, he can punt the ball 70 yards plus. He's really a definition of a weapon at the position. And I don't think that the Dolphins are married in the punter department right now. There's a few teams that are, but Araiza can do something that I think is very important on a lot of these teams that are looking to be championship contenders, and that is control the ball positioning. If you have a punter like Araiza who really can punt the ball, like I said, 70+ yards, he has a very strong leg. That is going to help out a ton when you have to give the ball up to the other team. This is a guy who at any point can pin them back inside their 20. I think that's a absolute steal of a weapon. He might even go earlier in the draft than the 7th round where we have him, but getting him here in the 7th round I think is an absolute steal because this is a team that you don't think of special teams right away. You think of hey, let's get more corners, let's get more special teamers. Well, why not get a special team guy? And that is what we're getting here in Araiza. I really do think that he would be able to flip the spot of the ball from our 20 to their 20 if we go 3 and out, etc. So this is a very easy pick for me. I think this is a championship type of pick where if you're taking a punter inside the draft, not waiting until the UDFAs, that usually means your roster is pretty solid. And I think that this Dolphins team is a very solid team. They got money still. I mean, this is everything you'd want and more from this draft. So without further ado, we are pretty much done here. Only 4 selections for these Dolphins, but Tyreek Hill is taking up some of those picks, and that is a good problem to have, is getting Tyreek Hill. So Dolphins fans, let me know what you think about the draft selections. Let me know what you think about Zamir White and Brandon Smith, especially those top 2 guys in our draft. What are we thinking? How are they going to fit into this offense and defense? What can they be? Yes, this is a shorter video. Obviously, Dolphins don't have as many picks, but I hope you guys did enjoy. If you didn't, it's okay. Just refresh the page and let me know what you think about it a second time. Without further ado, that is going to be it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.
How you talking 50K? How you talking making plays or just talking? Yeah. I do this shit here on my own time. Time is money, so I did it on my own dime. Word to Bookie, yeah, this homage gave me game. Yeah, he taught me family ties. Quick to back there, off me. Nah, I can't wait for you.